The Arizona desert knows no mercy. Its scorching sun, blistering wind, and barren terrain put man and his machinery to the ultimate test. For in this sandy wasteland, only the strong survive. A capacity crowd is packed Firebird International Raceway near Phoenix, Arizona for NHRA Championship drag racing at the 12th running of the Atsco Nationals. Conditions here at Firebird Raceway are cloudy, cool, and breezy, making for some great racing weather. Hi, everybody. I'm Dave McClellan, and great racing is just what you're going to see today on ESPN Speed World. In fact, you'll see from the second round on all three of our pro categories: Top Fuel, Funny Car, and Pro Stock. Firebird Raceway is a fickle place, and nobody learned it better than did Mike Dunn and the Team Mopar car. Their string of bad luck in 1996 continued here. They exploded an engine in all four qualifying efforts and did not make the field. In funny car competition, Al Hoffman won the Winter Nationals, coming into Phoenix with great anticipation. That all went away, though, in round number 1 against Whit Bazemore when he smoked the tires violently and almost lost control. What an incredible upset in Pro Stock round number 1, where the top qualifier and reigning Winston champ, Warren Johnson, went down to defeat at the hands of number 16, Troy Coughlin. After the race, WJ was philosophical.
Stopped running in the middle of the track. I obviously broke something on the run. I thought we were out probably pretty even together, and it just stopped running in the middle of the track.
Sorry to see you out.
We're drag racing.
Those aren't the only racers with sad stories to relate here at Phoenix. For more tales of woe, here's Steve Evans.
Well, Mac, woe is also how you stop a horse. Well, let me show you how defending Atsco Nationals champion Larry Dixon stopped Connie Coletta in round number 1. Coletta had qualified far better, had Dixon right where he wanted him until about half track with Connie in control. The left rear slick on the Coletta car goes boom. All the sparks coming off of the protective pad on the chassis. Coletta did a fine job of controlling the car. He was okay. The car will need some work. Eddie Hill, two-time Phoenix champion, had an interesting goal coming into this weekend. He wanted to run in the 460s before he turned 60 in just about 10 days. Well, unfortunately, in round 1, he met up with Tommy Johnson Jr. Eddie dropped a cylinder right off the starting line, and TJ went to round number 2 with an okay 486. Will we see more weirdness in round 2 of Top Fuel? Dave McClellan, how about it?
I wouldn't be surprised, Steve. Take a look at the diehard qualifying list from Blaine Johnson, number 1 at a 468, down to the number 16 spot, a 490. The top 8 cars all qualified at over 300 miles an hour. Here's the way it went in round 1 as Blaine Johnson advanced. So did Scott Coletta, Shelley Anderson, and Corey McLenithan. The other side of the ladder, Joe Amato, Larry Dixon, Kenny Bernstein, and Tommy Johnson Jr. The Bud King, Kenny Bernstein, and his brand new race car up against TJ Jr. at the wheel of the Jet Hot car. Tommy's in 3rd in the Winston point standings coming into this event that is led by Blaine Johnson. Connie Coletta, runner-up at Pomona, is in the number 2 spot. Dixon and Amato round out the top 5. Bernstein qualified in the number 3 spot with a great 471, defeated Rance McDaniel in round number 1 of competition. His opponent, Tommy Johnson Jr., had a 486 in qualifying, ran the same number when he beat Eddie Hill in the first round. We saw that just a moment ago. And his folks at Jet Hot, the one-race sponsorship for the Jet Hot people local to the Phoenix area, are quite pleased because here in round number 2, TJ Jr.'s got the lane choice over Kenny Bernstein. The lane of choice for the quicker qualified or winning cars appears to be this right-hand or lane nearest our camera. You're on board with the Bud King, Kenny Bernstein. An incredible wheel stand for Kenny Bernstein. He blew the motor in the lights, but look at the time. 4.66 seconds by 1,000th of a second, a new national record. Watch this wheel stand. What kept it from going over backwards? Bernstein carried it down to almost the 1/8 of a mile. When the wheels came back down, it was like an aircraft landing gear. Smoke coming off the front wheels, and Bernstein ran 3:05.
That was one of the darndest runs I have ever seen down the 1/4 of a mile. It began with the wheel stand.
Oh, yeah, I just carried it, Steve, forever and ever and ever, and it was stuck there, and I went, please stay, please stay. And then when the front end came down, it smoked the front tires.
Was there a time you almost looked?
Sure, because it comes to a point, it gets at this certain level, and if it starts to move even just a hair more, you've got to get out or you're over. And I just went, man, I don't know if it's going to stay, but it did, and I was lucky.
The new look Kenny Bernstein has this crowd talking to itself. Our next pair of cars finds Shelly Anderson against Corey McLenathan. Shelly in the near lane, the quicker of the winners in round number 1. Her victim there was Jack Ostrander when she ran a 481 in the process. Shelly had qualified in the number 4 spot with her Western Auto Parts America dragster. Corey McLenathan qualified 5th at a 476. He ran 485 when he beat Bob Vandergrift Jr. in the first round. McLenathan at the wheel of the Joe Gibbs Racing McDonald's dragster. His crew chief, Lee Beard. That's Lee reaching in to make a final adjustment to the engine. Standing out in front of Shelly Anderson's car as we look from her vantage point, right inside the cockpit is her dad, Brad Anderson, along with Larry Meyer serving as the crew chief this year for Shelly Anderson. And her 476 performance in qualifying serves notice that Shelly may be tough to beat throughout this 96 season. Well, there it was a case of too much power or too little traction as Shelly Anderson goes up in smoke. Corey McLenathan wins, but with a subpar 509. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Atsco Nationals is brought to you by Allied Signals Fram Filters. You can pay a little now or a lot later. And by McDonald's on the track and in our restaurants. Just watch us cook. Jim Yates and his McDonald's Pro Stock Pontiac headed to the lane. Pro Stock and more Top Fuel racing coming up next. Welcome back to the Atsco Nationals at Firebird Raceway. We're in round number 2 of Top Fuel action. That's Larry Dixon in the Miller car. A big wheel stand for Corey McLenathan. Let's go to Steve.
Keep that up, and these front tires will last forever.
No kidding, boy. I'll tell you, about half track, it was just so high I had to shut it off. Came back down, she wasn't there. I got back on it. Another wheel stand. What a ride, I'm telling you, 2 wheels.
You put some weight on the front end or what?
No, I mean, we didn't think it was going to do that, but we got a little extra traction. After watching Kenny do it, I thought, hey, I can do it too.
Well, there's the explanation for the 509 subpar run. The fact that he made it down there that quick is remarkable indeed. Here's Larry Dixon. He wheels the Miller car for Don Prudhomme, beat Connie Coletta in the first round, and qualified with a fine 485. Joe Amato, is he back? I would guess. Look at the time, 4.70 in qualifying. Rookie Bruce Sarver was his victim in round number 1, where Joe ran a 481. That earned him lane choice. And as we have said before, all of the quicker cars appear to be taking the lane nearest the camera. Well, the work of the crew completed. It's all up to the driver at this point. Joe Amato rolls through in deep stages, trying to get an advantage off the starting line, and he goes up in smoke for the 2nd race in a row. The quicker car in what most folks perceive to be the best lane has lost traction. 483 at 298 for Dixon. He heads to the semifinal. Here's 2-time Winston champ Scott Coletta and the number 1 qualifier, Blaine Johnson, at the wheel of the Travers Tool Company car. This Johnson car's got the Top Fuel contingent talking to themselves. Down at the far end of the racetrack, Steve has finally had a chance to catch up with Larry Dixon.
Larry, you're not paralyzing them with performance, but you're going rounds, and that's all that matters.
Man, I'm telling you, I feel real lucky going that round. I saw Joe go in stage deep, and I'm like, all right, that's cool, because I've been going all right on the tree, and hung in there, hit the throttle, and the car didn't move good. I saw him for a while, and then all of a sudden he just gradually went away, and I was like, thank you. Saw that wind light. So.
Already concerned about round wins, and this is only the second race in a row, but those round wins lead to Winston Championship. And here's the guy that's won 2 in a row. Here at Phoenix, he qualified number 8, while Blaine Johnson qualified number 1 at a 468. And Blaine coming off that big win in Pomona just 3 weeks ago. That's his brother, Alan, who is the crew chief on this car. Blaine, 4 consecutive years, was the Winston champion in top alcohol dragster, so he certainly knows how to win and cope with the pressure. Coletta with back-to-back top fuel titles has been in the cooker a few times himself. Something goes wrong on Johnson's car, and Scott Coletta improves to a 479 at 305 miles an hour. Scott will get the lane choice against Corey Mack in the semifinals, while it'll be Kenny Bernstein picking his lane against Larry Dixon. Now let's go to Funny Car. Here again, Steve.
You see that crack in the sleeve of Whit Bazemore's round 1 motor? Well, as Al Hoffman was fighting for control in the Western Auto Car, Whit was praying his didn't burn to the ground, because when that cracked, it allowed the fire out, and look, but it melted the block. But Whit, with his new sponsorship, he's headed for the lanes. In fact, he's already there with a spare engine in the car. If he needs another motor before the day is over, Jim Head, his Smokin' Joe's teammates, they're putting one together. These guys are really working together. And another weird one had to be Richard Hartman, who qualified number 3, had a slam dunk with Gary Bolger. Not when the tires shake that hard. Hartman will have a headache in the morning. And how about Cruz Pedregon, the number 4 qualifier, round number 1? Where was his head? An embarrassingly horrible red light against Kenji Okazaki, who wasn't running all that well. Mac?
Steve, our diehard qualifying list shows John Force at the top, Dale Poldy in the number 8 spot, and a very respectable 520. The bump all the way down to Tom Hoover, a former winner here at Phoenix, with a 542. Here's what happened in round 1. Force and Oswald, Mark that is, advanced, as did Okazaki. You saw that. Tony Pedregon took the win. Chuck Etchells and Chuck Beal both moved into round number 2, as did Gary Bolger. You saw that. And this man, Whit Bazemore, picking up the sponsorship in the offseason of the folks from Smokin' Joe's. The engine coming to life in the Creasy family car, driven by Gary Bolger. That's Dale Creasy, squirting the fuel into the injector and then lowering the body down over Bolger. The Winston point standings coming into Phoenix finds Al Hoffman, the winner at Pomona, the leader, followed by John Force. Cruz Pedregon in 3rd, Gary Clapshaw in 4th, and Whit Bazemore in the number 5 spot. Bazemore, a young man who always had a desire to drive a funny car, finally saw it come to pass a few years ago. Now with the Smokin' Joe's help, he's playing with the big guys. The number 14 qualifier was Bolger at a 533. You saw him beat Richard Hartman in the first round with a 524, but his opponent, Whit Bazemore, was just a little bit quicker. A 5.20. Everybody's eyes, though, on that first round race were concentrated on Al Hoffman, who was all over the racetrack. Rob Flynn and Whit Bazemore, a formidable team now in funny car competition. Bolger, the longtime veteran, now to the state of Illinois. Both of them smoking the tires, but Bazemore does it a little bit further down track. A 531 victory advances him to the semifinals. There's lots to do at an NHRA championship drag race, as this young man's finding out. Back at Firebird Raceway in the Atsco Nationals, you are looking at Chuck Beal, the former alcohol funny car racer that has certainly left no doubt about his ability to run in the nitro categories off of his performances last year. Same could be said for the first funny car driver in the 4-second zone. Chuck Etchells at the wheel of the Kendall Dodge. He qualified number 2 at a 5:05, just a heartbeat behind John Force. Beal qualified number 10 at a 5:26. Got a break when he beat Gary Densham in the first round. Here was the single qualifying effort for Chuck Beal. He was off the throttle for 0.3 of a second during the run, went into a wheel stand and broke the rear end at the 1,000-foot mark, and still ran a 5:26. There's problems inside the field car, something in the drivetrain. The only thing there really is the reverser, and maybe they cannot get it to go forward. Crewman inside trying to get the car to shift. Starter Rick Stewart comes over and tells Chuck Etchels, you've got a single, and you're on board with Chuck. Oh, he backpedals very early. Gets back on the throttle and runs a 5:36 at 290 miles an hour. Chuck felt the car start to shake, the tires lose traction, lifted, and got back in it. For Chuck Beal and crew, what a disappointment here in round number 2. They stood a pretty good chance, and particularly after Etchels struck the tires, but it was all for naught. Want to take a moment to remind you, if you haven't done it before, you should do it right now. Call the number on your screen. For only $57 a year, you get a rule book, a pin, a patch, a decal, and if you call right now, you can receive a copy of Diamond P's Home Video Drag Racing 94. Take it from me, it's great, and what a bargain indeed. Who could that be? None other than John Force. Nobody does a burnout as long as Force today. Since Casey Spurlock is not in competition at this point, by default, I guess, you would say that Force is back to being the king of the burnouts. The crowd just loves it. His opponent here in the In-N-Out Burger car is Mark Oswald, with Bill Schultz, his crew chief. Oswald, a former Winston champion back in the mid-'80s, is a force to contend with indeed. He qualified in the number 9 spot at a 5:23, while John was the number 1 qualifier with a 5:04. Lane choice here by a little more than 1/10 of a second goes to Force. He'll use the decision of his crew chief, Austin Coyle. That's him out in front of the car as to where to stage to get the best traction. It was rather ironic, the opponent that fell to Mark Oswald in round number 1 was Dale Boldy, who drove the In-N-Out Burger car to the championship here in Phoenix in 1990. Oh, Force just incredible. 5:10 at 258 miles an hour. Slowing at the far end of the track. Oswald trailing with a 5:21 at 287. Watch this one again. It was a pretty good race up till about the 8th mile mark, and then Force just drove away from Oswald. There you see Oswald just about a car length behind at the 8th mile, and from that point on, it was all over. Saw how quick Force shut her down. Still had a big lead.
John, only 258 miles an hour.
You won't believe it. See, this old GTX old heap here quit right down there. And, man, I thought, oh, man, we're out of time here. And here come Oswald and that bird stand. Just smoked it right in there. I told Coyle, did we get him? I didn't really know.
Can you believe it ran a 5:10 at that speed?
She's trying to truck, but got to get back to start line. My boy's up there.
Number 2 car.
Can you get me down there?
I can't take it all the way down there.
Get me close. I want to watch it.
Oh, look at that. John getting special service, taking him back to the starting line to watch this car. No, you're not seeing double, and John's not inside of it. That is Tony Pedregon driving the number 2 car of the Castrol Pontiac team. He qualified 5th at a 5:17, beat James Kuza in the first round. Number 13 qualifier with a 5:31, Kenji Okazaki and Jim Dunn's Moon Eyes car. And he got the break when the Cruz Pedregon red light occurred in the first round. Now he's got another Pedregon, Cruz's brother Tony, at the wheel of the John Force car. This car ran 499 on this racetrack in preseason testing. Talking about Tony Pedregon. Another trouble-plagued run for Jim Dunn, the Moon Eyes, and Kenji Okazaki. 6 seconds flat. But a year from now, they'll look at the chart and they'll just see the W beside it, and that win puts him into the Final 4 against the other Castrol car, John Force. Whit Bazemore gets a chance to prove his mettle against Chuck Etchels. Steve?
Well, Dave, besides Warren Johnson, Kurt Johnson, and Bob Glidden all going out round number 1 of Pro Stock, there were some other interesting occurrences. For example, Danny Kaufman, who appeared to have a big performance advantage over Mark Osborne, suddenly, right on the starting line, fluids leaking out of the car. Rick Stewart, NHRA starter, said, nope, not safe, and shut Kaufman off. Osborne singled into the second round. And how about Jerry Ekman? He's won here before, been in 2 finals, as a matter of fact. Qualified number 3, he would handle rookie Tom Martino. Watch this. Martino flat out runs the Pennzoil car. Can you keep your composure now?
After the first round, it definitely gets easier. It's just like comp. First round's always the toughest. After you get by that, most of it comes just natural after that.
Great effort. Watch him. Well, Tom Martino and his East Coast-based crew, they are pumped for the second round, just snapping together the interior 10, and they'll head to the staging lanes. We'll have Pro Stock Round 2 for you here on Speed World when we come back.
We're at the Atsco Nationals at Firebird Raceway near Phoenix, Arizona, and the Pro Stock qualifying was superb. In fact, only 0.05 of a second separated 16 cars from Warren Johnson at the top of the list to Troy Coughlin down in 16th spot at a 7:09. You saw the first round upset as Coughlin beat Warren Johnson. Mark Osborne got the break when Danny Kaufman forced to shut off. Chuck Harris advanced, as did the points leader Jim Yates. Steve Schmidt and Ray Franks will meet in round number 2, as will Mike Edwards and Tom Martino. The pair that you're looking at the moment, Tom Martino in the lane nearest the camera. This is Mike Edwards driving the John Kite-owned race car as part of the Steve Schmidt team. The point standings coming into Phoenix after 1 race: Jim Yates, Billy Hoff, Warren Johnson, Chuck Harris, and Steve Schmidt. A total of 19 events contested on the NHRA Winston Championship Trail here in '96. Mike Edwards qualified with a 7:07 in the number 6 spot and beat the surprising Carl Beal in the first round. As you saw, Jerry Ekman was the victim of the number 14 qualifier, a 7:09 by Tom Martino. The lane choice here going to Martino. In that first round win, he ran a 7:10, 0.04 of a second better than Mike Edwards. Edwards' car appears on the outside to be identical to Steve Schmidt, who is the engine builder for the Edwards car. A red light start by Mike Edwards, just a hair too quick off the starting line. Instant disqualification, and Tom Martino had that one won before he ever let the clutch out. A 7:11 at 194 miles an hour puts Martino into the semifinal. Troy Coughlin in the yellow and black Jake's machine. His dad, Jake Coughlin, a former racer, sponsoring not only this car, but a whole series of race cars in sportsman competition for his other sons to drive as well. His opponent here, the Mama Rosa's Pizza entry, Mark Osborne at the wheel. Osborne winner at Atlanta last season. Coughlin, though, the surprise of this meet. From his number 16 qualifying spot at a 7:09, he ran 7:09 to beat Warren Johnson in the first round. What an upset. The number 9 qualifier was Osborne. He had a 7:08 in qualifying, a 7:16 on that single pass in round number 1. Way off the mark, both from his previous qualifying time and what it appears to be necessary to be competitive this day here in Phoenix. And a bit of a staging battle going on. Nobody seems to be moving too much. Rick Stewart doesn't seem to be terribly upset about it, so we'll see how long it lasts. Coughlin finally breaks. Advantage to Osborne off the starting line, but at the finish it is the power of the Jakes machine. With a 7:12, 194 mile an hour victory. Osborne just getting slower on every run. This one he slowed all the way to a 7:20. So there you saw the staging battle. Neither driver wanted to stage. They lit the top bulb on the tree, which indicates they are about 6 to 8 inches away from the actual starting line. And then they just sat there. Finally, Coughlin moved in. Osborne followed quickly. The tree went green and they left. Steve?
I can just hear your father now watching ESPN yelling, "Stage, stage, don't play that game with him."
Oh, no, you just got to go when you're ready, and hopefully everything goes well and the starter doesn't get too excited. But I'll tell you, we're having a good time.
Anytime you beat the reigning Winston champ in the first round from the number 16 qualifying spot, gotta be one of the great days of your racing career. Jim Yates had one 3 weeks ago when he won the inaugural event of the season. Here he qualified 5th. The number 4 qualifier was Chuck Harris, who took out Kurt Johnson in the first round. Yates and Harris somewhat teammates, if you will, as Harris running an engine built by Yates engine builder Dick Maskin. That's Jim's wife, Tony. In the first round, Billy Huff, another teammate, was the victim of Jim Yates, who ran a 7:11 in the first round. Harris ran quicker at a 7:09. That gave him the lane choice, and he broke with tradition just a bit and moved over into the lane furthest from the camera. A close race indeed at the top end, just by a few inches. Wife Tony and chassis builder Jerry Bickle talking on the radio to Yates, telling him he just ran a 7:05, low elapsed time of eliminations. Harris at a 7:13, 191 miles an hour. Watch Yates just drive by him at the finish line to take the win. A close race. Look at the margin of victory. Just a fender length. Steve?
Hey, Jim. With times like a 7:05, you don't need much help.
7:05? Seriously? I heard Bickle screaming on the radio down there. I knew it was something good.
You could beat about anybody heads up with those numbers.
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, we got 3 rears in the trailer and 5 transmissions. I think we've had every one in this car. We're just searching for a combination today, and all weekend we've just been up and down. It looks like we found a pretty good one there.
Time for the final pair here in round number 2 of Pro Stock Racing. Ray Franks, the Franks and Haas team. He beat Bob Glidden in the first round after qualifying with a 7:08. Meantime, Steve Schmidt qualified number 2 at a 7:04. He ran 7:08 when he beat Mike Thomas in the first round. Quick check inside the car for Schmidt. What a name he has made for himself with help from the Dynagear folks. Schmidt building the engines for a number of racers, including Ray Franks. Schmidt of his philosophy, just put it on the starting line and let's go racing, and Schmidt red lights. Great performance though. Schmidt just wastes the quickest elapsed time of eliminations by a 1,000th of a second quicker than Yates. Ray Franks wins though with a 7:12 and advances into the final 4, where we will find Troy Coughlin trying for yet another giant upset. This time his opponent will be Jim Yates, while Tom Martino, the former competition eliminator racer, tangles with Ray Franks.
Hey, Ray, I'm a little surprised we're talking. The last thing I expected was a red light from Steve.
So did I. I mean, I didn't expect it at all, but Steve's a straight-up guy, though. I mean, he said, come out and run me. He said, it's your engine, it's your deal, and that's what we did.
Here's the Kenny Bernstein pit area. They're getting the Bud King ready. Kenny's got to run better than a 4.710 to back up the national record. Funny cars coming up next. Welcome back to our Speed World coverage of the Atsco Nationals. I'm Dave McClelland along with Steve Evans, and we're right in the midst of the final 4 of funny car competition. Chuck Etchels with his crew chief Tim Richards against Whit Bazemore. Earlier, Steve had a question for Chuck.
Chuck, this is not like racing the Whit Bazemore we used to know.
No, but, you know, I used to worry about the Whit Bazemore we used to know, and probably for the same reasons you worry about him today. He's just a real competitive individual. You know, I really like the guy. I mean, Forrest always says that about me. Now, I can say it about somebody younger than me, and I like the kid. He's a good guy. He certainly has earned what he's got, and he's a true professional. So we're going to have some fun.
The old cliche of paying your dues would certainly apply to Whit Bazemore, and our congratulations to him on his new sponsorship. I've said it before, he's a win looking for some place to happen. Might be this day here in Phoenix. Not to be, as Bazemore blazes the tires, crosses over the center line, hits the timing cone, and Chuck Etchels takes the win and goes to the finals. Wasn't necessarily the prettiest thing you ever saw, but a 5:41 is enough to get him past the tire-smoking Whit Bazemore. Both cars stuck pretty good right at the starting line. Then the problem set in. Look at that. It was Etchell's backpedaling a couple of times. Bazemore blazed him, the tires, that is. And Chuck won it.
Jack Etchels was afraid he might have crossed the center line. We know for sure Witt did. You just had fewer problems than him.
Well, like I told you before in the interview, I really like the kid a lot. True pro. I saw him right out the window out there, you know, and on and off the throttle. I know we were really close to center line. I was just saying, oh, please, God, don't have a header. Just, you know, the fumes blow it over. But I didn't know my good.
You didn't do it first.
I didn't know my good buddy Witt crossed over first.
Hey. Let's see if John Force can take the measure at Kenji.
Let's hope not.
Well, we know how Etchels feels about it. The question is, what about Jim Dunn and Kenji Okazaki? Steve asked the question.
Kenji, you know, Big Jim will do anything to beat John Force. Anything.
You got it. We're going to try hard. I mean, we're going to fix the problem. Probably it's going to be a good race.
Make sure you got that fire suit zipped up, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
Kenji's ridden out a few fires in his career. One thing about Okazaki, and this has got to prey on the mind of John Force, he is, on average, the best reaction time driver in funny car competition. By that I mean, he reacts to the green light on the Christmas tree better than anybody else. Better than John Force, better than Chuck Etchell, you just name it. Kenji is at the top of the reaction time list. Kenji having engine problems again. John Force, no difficulties, a 5:14 at 2:93. And Kenji beat John Force off the starting line by nearly 2/100ths of a second. But all that advantage instantly disappeared for the Moon Eyes Dodge as the Pontiac of John Force pulled ahead. Watch Okazaki's car. A quick flash of flame and a blower explosion cost him a shot at Force, who moves into the finals to race Chuck Etchels. John will hold the choice of lanes. We'll be back to Firebird Raceway right after this. The factory hot rods, the pro stocks of NHRA championship drag racing on the racetrack here at the Atsco Nationals. It is the newcomer Tom Martino against the veteran Ray Franks, and Steve posed a question for Ray.
How do you handle Tom Martino?
We'll just play our own game. We'll just go up there and I'll do my own job of driving. Yeah, the worst thing you can do is try to second guess the other driver. When you're up there, you got to do your own thing.
You wouldn't play any head games with the new guy just to see how he reacts?
I don't play head games. I go out and I race.
Well, it's a rather refreshing attitude towards pro stock competition, I must admit. That's Ray Franks at the wheel of the Franks and Haas car. His partner, Jerry Haas, the chassis builder. Tom Martino, former competition eliminator standout. Ray Franks had the advantage at the starting line, but could not make it pay off. A 7:14 win for Tom Martino at 193 miles an hour puts him into the finals of pro stock competition in only his second race as a pro stock driver. What an accomplishment indeed. A close one at the finish line. Look at the margin of victory. That much for Martino.
Tom Martino goes to the final round of pro stock. You've dreamed to hear those words.
Long time.
Very composed on the starting line. Great drag race.
Thank you. But Ray's just a good guy, so there's no games. One stages, the other one stages, and we race.
Did you ever even see him?
Just in low. After low, I had him about a fender on him the rest of the way down. I'm just trying to concentrate on not overwinding it.
That's the problem. You can't over-rev those 500 cubic inch motors. Here's Jim Yates and Troy Coughlin, and the question here is, what'll Troy do this time?
Jim Yates figures you're going to try to leave on him. Do you need to be that desperate?
You need to be 420, 430, be consistent with everything else. It'll be a good drag race.
That and a good tight clutch.
That too.
And a little equal time for Jim Yates.
Don Garland's always said he was like the gunfighter, and every new kid in town took a shot at him. You are now in that position.
That comes with the territory, and I guess I'd rather have it this way than any other way. You know, being the faster car, you're going to get the guys taking a shot at you. I made a living doing it for a long time, so I'm willing to go up there and take my chances.
Coughlin did the number. He's got the advantage. But he could not make it pay off. Jim Yates runs 7:08 at 194 miles an hour. Coughlin slowed to a 7:16 at 194 again. Most of the racers feel the lane nearest the camera is the better lane. Coughlin may have gotten into a little bit of tire shake and lost some traction partway down the racetrack. Yates with another pretty run, but Coughlin gave him everything he could at the starting line by 0.04 of a second. He beat Yates off the starting line, a half a car length. Victory put Yates into the finals against Martino.
Yes, the C words, confident and conservative. That won that drag race.
That looked awful good to me. A win's a win, right? How do we run?
A 7:08.
7:08. That's pretty. Looked like we left pretty close together up there. You know, it's a battle out there right now.
The semifinal and Top Fuel Eliminator coming up next. How about this? Scott Coletta. The magnificent Firebird Raceway near Phoenix, Arizona, home of the 12th annual running of the Atsco Nationals. And what a rivalry has developed between Corey McLenathan and Scott Coletta. We got to hear what they have to say. Steve?
This is a chance for you to send a special message to Corey McLenathan for this semifinal race. What would you like to say to Corey?
Corey, I'm going to whip your butt one way or another, either at the starting line or when we get out at the other end.
Woo-hoo. These two guys race hard and they play hard. A lot of practical jokes go back and forth. Here again, Steve.
You and Scott Coletta, a little bit of a personal thing.
Oh, definitely. You know, we play jokes on each other. Every time we meet each other, it's like a fist fight, you know. Scott's a little bit bigger than I am, but I mean, when it's one of those things with the cars, we're up there battling the staging lane. You never know who's gonna stage first, anything. We get down the other end. If I win, he always tells me he's gonna roll me in the grass, so it'll be interesting either way.
Well, Corey McLenathan may well end up in the grass this time. Corey was up for this race. Had an advantage at the starting line by 0.04 of a second. Ran 4:78 at 297 miles an hour. Coletta was closing fast at the finish line, though. In the near lane, take a look at the American International Airways car of the reigning Winston champ. Was in the middle of the course and he fell behind. He tried to make it up at the finish line, running 306.8 miles an hour in the process.
You and your old buddy Scott had a pretty good drag race, 200s between you.
Really, that's incredible. I'll tell you. You know, they're the best out there. They're the guys to beat. You know, we're just trying to get this car in the winner's circle. And for all our sponsors, it's a great thing to be in the final here in Phoenix. I love racing here. We got our new sponsor, Easy Care. They're along with us in our first final with them. Thanks a lot.
Okay, back.
All right, Corey McLenathan advances to the finals. He's walking over to Scott Coletta.
Dirt, bud. Let's go, dirt.
Isn't that nice? Next pair up, Kenny Bernstein against Larry Dixon. Earlier, Steve posed this question to last season's Rookie of the Year.
In your short career, another first is coming up. The first time you've ever raced Kenny Bernstein.
It's kind of funny. I mean, we've been racing for a year now. I have, and we've never paired up except once in qualifying. And this is our first time racing each other on race day, and we'll just go up there and give it our best shot.
One thing Kenny Bernstein's got to be thinking about is the potential of a national record. Steve?
A record comes when you least expect it, but that's low priority backing that up.
Yeah, it really is. We need to win the race. That's the most important thing. And if the record comes, that's great also. But winning this race, that's what counts.
4.710 is the magic number for the record backup run. Bernstein with another nice pass. Didn't quite make it down to the 471s. But look at that 473 at 301 miles an hour. He goes into the final round with the lane choice over Corey McLenathan. Some great Top Fuel racing this weekend here in Phoenix. Dixon gave him everything he wanted up until about the first 600 feet. Then Bernstein pulled ahead and maintained a car length lead through the finish line. Our finals in Top Fuel will find Corey Mack against Kenny.
In their first ever side-by-side confrontation, Kenny Bernstein takes the measure of Larry Dixon with a 473 at 301.
Well, that's a great run, and it didn't come apart this time, maybe. I think that's even better if you can get that accomplished. But great job for the guys. They've really had a tough day at it, believe me.
I tell you, getting rid of some of your other business ventures, you're focused on this thing.
Well, it's the only thing we have going, and it's the thing I love the most. And you know, with everybody kind of back into the same boat, we're pushing pretty hard at it. And I just can't thank the sponsors, Budweiser, Mac Tool, Hooters, for hanging in there for a tough year. I hope we can give them something back.
As he said, the best news is the oil's all in the crankcase where it belongs.
Jim LaHaye setting the clutch timers on the Etchells car. He faces Force in the funny car final. That in a moment. Time for the final rounds of the 12th annual Atsco Nationals at Firebird Raceway. We'll kick things off with Pro Stock Eliminator. Jim Yates and Tom Martino. The McDonald's car of Yates up against Tom and Robin Martino. Racing on their own nickel at the moment, as are so many other racers in search of a sponsor. But Martino is certainly delivering on his promise. That is to do the very best he can in one of the toughest categories of them all. Martino almost loses it in the middle of the racetrack. You saw him start to drift out a little bit out of the groove. Jerry Bickle relaying the numbers down to Jim Yates. Another fine 7:05 at a speed of 194 miles an hour. Martino had 0.04 of a second at the starting line. Look at this. The car drifts off to the left just a little bit, gets out of the groove. At that point, Martino shuts it down, because if you stay with it too long, results could be disaster for Yates. Win number 2.
For the first time ever, Jim Yates has won 2 in a row. Pomona and now Phoenix, the P races.
How sweet it is. I'm going to tell you, that's great. That's absolutely fantastic.
Nice, 7:05. That was consistently the number he wanted to run.
Oh, you know, ran a 7:05 second round. We come back in the semis, run a 7:08, and it was just a little loose, so we put some more wing in it and went right down to it. Really felt strong out there. We knew we'd have to be tough. Martino's hungry. I mean, he's awful hungry out there. You know, he was going for the wall.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I want to thank Dynamax, McDonald's, and one special person today, my kids, Jonathan, Melissa, and Jamie. I forgot them last week. I won't do that again.
Jim Yates has got him a substantial lead in the Winston chase, 100 points, 5 rounds of racing over Chuck Harris. Martino is third, Frank and Huff tied for 4th and 5th. The finals in funny car, John Force, who has been the class car of elimination. Not running the O's, but consistently down in the 5 team. Earlier, Steve looked at a problem part.
What is the littlest thing you could break that would cost you a race? John Force is finding out the hard way. At Pomona, final round against Al Hoffman, he broke this little bitty valve keeper, had to shut it off. It allows the valve to come out of this retainer and bad things happen. Here at Phoenix, they broke one Friday, warming the car up. They broke another one in Saturday qualifying, ruined that run, and they're just scared to death that somewhere down the track before this day is over, this little bitty dollar part is going to cost them a bundle.
One person who doesn't necessarily want to see Force have problems but wouldn't turn it down is the driver of the Kendall GT1 Dodge, Chuck Etchell. Etchell's teaming up this season with Jim Epler, who brought over the Rug Doctor sponsorship to help in Etchell's racing effort. One magnificent driving job by John Force. Did you see the car start to smoke the tires? He lifted off the throttle, it regained traction, and he got back in it and still ran 5:19 at 295 miles an hour. Just a good indicator of how much power these machines can produce. If you can go out and lift completely out of the throttle, like you did right there when the flames went out, and then get back onto the Goodyear tires hooked, and you see on the other side a bit of tire smoke coming off for Etchell. For Force, a dramatic win at a 5:19.
Yes, naysayers, there is a traction control device on this Pontiac. It's called John Force, and it's legal.
Hey, this old truck driver, I was starting to think I was pretty old. I ain't won a race, 5 championships, but I ain't won a race in a long time. Castrol and all the boys, Pontiac, Mac Tool, I think they're starting to get a little bit worried, but the old Goodyear, she smoked them. I got back on it. She hiked the front end truck. What happened to Etchells?
Doesn't matter. You won it with a 19.
Well, let me tell you, we've needed this, and there's a lot of people like Action supporting us. Fram on Light, we're happy. We love y'all. Finally won us a drag race. Seems like it's been 5 years.
Hasn't been that long, just since Brainerd last season, but Force is in the lead in the points chase, followed by Hoffman. Etchells and Bazemore are tied, with Cruz Pedregon rounding out the top 5. While Force receives the congratulations of the fans, Top Fuel coming up next. One race remains at the Atsco Nationals. You're looking on at Kenny Bernstein. Talk about intensity and concentration with all that's taking place on the starting line in front of him, and you get a great view there. from the onboard camera up on the wing on Bernstein's Bud King car. Kenny looking straight ahead. Lee Beard waving to Corey McLenathan saying, go get him. The only thing he got was lots of tire smoke. What a beautiful run, and Bernstein's got the record. The crew celebrates Dale Armstrong, Ray Alley, Kenny's lady, Cheryl Johnson, and look at the time, 4.70, just enough to set the national market of 4.66. Corey Mack was loaded for bear. The tires were smoking as they crossed the starting line, but Bernstein was hooked up to this pavement. No big wheel stand here. Just tremendous performance at over 305 miles an hour. The Bud King wins for the first time since '94.
I hate to use the word comeback in the same sentence with Kenny Bernstein, but I think it fits a bit. Congratulations. It's been a long dry spell.
It sure has, Steve, and thank you very much. It is a comeback because it's been a tough year and a half or so. I can't say enough for Dale Armstrong, Ray Alley, and Bob Brooks and this Budweiser King team, the new guys with us and everybody working so hard all winter long to make this thing happen. It's been great.
Let me give you a bonus. New national record holder of 470 backs it up.
Oh, that's phenomenal. That's the icing on the cake, so to speak. You know, I got to do one more thing for you here. This Army deal right here, this T-shirt, Brigadier General John Meyer gave this to me when we were the designated driver program for Anheuser-Busch. I told him we'd wear it in the winner's circle the first time we won a race. But John, it's going in there, and to August Busch, the 4th, and all the guys at Budweiser, Mac Tool Hooters. Hey, man, we love you, and we appreciate you hanging with us.
Well said, Kenny Bernstein. Dave McClellan?
Steve, after 4 consecutive funny car crowns, Kenny Bernstein is in hot contention for his first ever Top Fuel title. He's only 4 points behind Blaine Johnson, McLenathan, Dixon, and Scott Coletta round out the top 5. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Atsco Nationals is brought to you by the more than 1,250 AutoZone stores across America. AutoZone, the best parts in auto parts. And by Dynamax, performance exhaust systems engineered by Walker. The Atsco Nationals has been a production of Diamond V Sports in association with ESPN.